Hey, good morning, everybody. I don't know if it's the sun is shining where you're at, but it's definitely not in Washington, D.C. It's really cloudy and like raining today, but thank goodness not too cold. How's everybody doing? Good morning, Liz, Brendan. How are you all doing today?
Morning, doing great.
Great, great, great. Well, everybody who's joined today, it's going to be a great show. We're going to talk about go to market strategy, which is very important when it comes to selling products to health systems, or if you're a health system yourself and you've developed new products and you want to do brand positioning, et cetera, et cetera. And we have expert Liz I'm sorry, I butchered that. McGavro. I butchered that
Macabro.
today.
Yep,
But she
perfect.
is our expert. I'm Larry Trotter. I'm CISO and founder of Inherent Security. We specialize in working with health tech companies, and my co-host Brendan McAdams. Brendan,
That's me, by the way. That's me.
there we go. And Liz, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Liz McGavro. I'm with Muse Communications Group, and I'm a marketing and communications consultant. My specialty is really communications, narrative storytelling, marketing for large organizations that are highly regulated.
Right, right. And why this is such a good conversation, especially with us three. I'm not, being biased or tooting my own horn or our own horn here, is because Liz helps get leads and market their product, and then comes in, he helps close those leads. And once Brendan's done, there's a security check, and that's where I come in. So everybody, you're getting a trifecta today when it comes to going to market. Liz, so let's start off talking about this whole branding thing, of positioning new products. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing to think about is, when you're focused on a product, you have to think about the overall story of the organization, the mission, what's the promise that as an organization you're giving to your consumer, whoever's buying your product, right? So I've seen in the past a lot of people just really approaching it from product by product perspective. Like, this product is great, it's gonna do this for you, and this product is great, it's gonna do that for you. But tying together all of your offerings with who the company is, what it stands for, what the brand promise is, how that experience is going to play out across all products, services, experience is really where an organization is going to be set up to win.
So, there's a couple of things I want to pick out of that stood out to me, right? So first, when you say these organizations, there's just selling product by product. I'm assuming that means without the story. What does that look like when you don't have a story? And what's the downfall of just selling in that way?
Yeah, I mean, you could have the greatest product, but it could also be a product that's similar to other people's products, right? Because there's not a ton of things out there that are unique, just never seen anywhere else, right? So having whoever is buying your product understand and really align with who you are as a firm, what your values are, what they're going to get from working with you. Like, do we believe in the same things? Right? I'm getting a little into some mission things here, but understanding the value that the organization brings and feeling like you can really align with that organization, that you trust the people within it, that okay, the technicality of the product is great, but also I feel comfortable with these people, this organization. I know what they stand for. I know that they're going to back up their promise. I know that they're going to be here for me if I need it. I'm going to trust whatever they bring to market. I think that's an even better way to sell your products than having just a great product. You have to have a great product too, but I think all of it together is the winning package.
So essentially, if you, like you said, especially in tech, right? I'm sure we can all agree on this. It's pretty much copycat. And it's really, I'm having an aha moment because right now, it's a perfect time. Brendan, you and I talk about this all the time. AI, right? It's affecting healthcare. How many scribes companies are there out there today? Somebody posted the other day, there was probably like 50 different AI scribes that health systems, can potentially use, right? They're just sprouting up like weeds. And then, like you said, they're all pretty much the same, but the uniqueness, right, is going to be in that story that they tell, which is really going to differentiate them from the competition, right?
Yeah, defining who you are and then really finding that connection point with the people that you most want to sell to.
When it comes to actually getting everybody on board, what does that look like?
Depends on the size of the organization, but In a large organization, it can be complicated, right? So you have compliance, you have legal, you have all kinds of people who want to be involved. What I've seen work in large organizations is establishing a cross-functional working group, kind of coming to the people who have the power to say yes or no to this particular campaign, getting them on board early, not approaching them asking for permission, but asking them for partnership and making sure they feel part of the process as you're developing, whatever campaign it is that you want to bring to market so they don't kibosh it at the end. That's really what I've seen work pretty well for larger groups. I mean, for smaller groups, it's probably less people involved, but you still have a lot of those same guideposts in place and you need them given, the environment today. So just getting people to work together, making them feel like they all have a say without, obviously giving people too much ability to act like marketers if they're not marketers, but making them feel like they're able to have some kind of a voice in what's actually going to market.
Is everybody a part of that, developing that story as a part of that collaboration? How do you come up with yeah, that's the question. How do you come up with the story?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different things. So, if you're starting way at the top, looking at a narrative story for the organization, at a brand, at positioning, I think that's a select group of people, right? Your CEO, your head of strategy, depending again on the size of your organization, you can't really do that with that many people. You have to have the right people in the room. You have to have the people that are invested. You have to have the people that are going to be able to push that story forward for you, but you can't have the entire organization involved, right? That would be very unwieldy and nobody would ever come to any kind of a consensus. But it's really starting at the top, really defining what the company stands for, what the values are, what they most want to be known for in the market, how they want to be seen across all experiences, and then creating the story out of that. And then as you get into more details of, what your offerings are, always tying those offerings back to that bigger story.
Right, Brian.
So when you deal with this, we talk about this a lot about there's a lot of collaboration and consensus that has to take place in these large organizations. What about vendors that are involved in this? Like, so you're coordinating a message and that message incorporates other vendors. How do you wrestle with that? How do you deal with those folks?
You mean with vendors who are partnering with you on a
Well, yeah. I'm assuming you deal with large health organizations, large companies that are looking to now advertise or promote some capability that they have that's new or that's worth mentioning. And so, like large hospital systems or payers, I don't. And in a lot of cases, they're rolling out something in conjunction with a vendor, like some new capability, and there's a vendor involved. And how should the vendor work with you?
both parties have to be on board. Both parties have to agree on the story. Both parties need to be able to iterate on
Yeah.
what the messaging is going to be, so each feels that their message is getting.
So a vendor that's working involved with this, how would they like give us some tips as to how they might best work with you to make sure that they're viewed in the best possible positioning, best possible light inside this organization? Because Larry and I don't sell typically. I mean, I think the audience for this is these people that are trying to sell to these organizations. So if we're selling to those organizations, what sorts of things would a vendor want to do to try and influence you?
Yeah, I think showing alignment with who the organization is, right, and their own brand, and
Yeah.
so it would be hard to have somebody who stood for something completely different trying to partner with you. That would be a hard message to pull together. But if there's a certain alignment there, and if you're able to find similarities in the story, or connection points that you both feel very strongly about, I think it's a lot easier to be able to find a way to effectively partner, right, and be able to tell that story more easily.
So our audience is mostly like the health tech vendors selling to health systems that you work with. I know you work with, health tech vendors too.
Can you suggest ways that a vendor might work with you to improve that, to make sure that they're represented in obviously they want alignment, right? How does someone work with a marketing organization to make sure that they're uh represented in the best possible way, or they can leverage it in the best way?
How are they showing up against their competitors? What do their offerings look like versus their competitors? What's the story they're telling? Are they clear about their value and how they're differentiated in the marketplace in order to be able to approach some of these partners?
But if I were selling into this organization, I was the sales rep or that involved with this deal that hospital ABC is announcing, what sorts of things would I want to do to try to do to influence you, the person that's working on behalf of the health system? Like, how would I work with you? Like, are there like things that we could do to kind of influence you,
Yeah, I mean,
work with you better?
you probably want to come in and do a presentation, right, about who you are, what you want to sell me, what you're standing for, yeah, all of those things, right? Do a presentation, show me how these things are going to help the people that I need to serve, right?
Yeah,
If there's collateral that is appropriate, I think it's more important to know what you're saying versus, yeah, sure, it's great to have some collateral, but to be able to sell it and to be able to tell me who you are, tell me what you stand for, tell me the value that you bring, and convince me that it's going to help me bring value to someone that I need to bring value to, I think the most important thing.
yeah. So the way I think about it is as a salesperson selling into the organization, trying to make this as impactful for my organization as possible, I want to try and make the job easier on you. So now, and not, and I'm not saying in your situation, but a lot of situations you've got a marketing person working with a hospital, and they don't really understand necessarily how this thing works,
Yeah.
right? Like in detail. And so, like, I would want to try to explain to you in some really meaningful, compelling way, hey, these are things that you need to make sure get into the copy or get into the talk. I had a conversation just recently with someone I'm coaching, and one of the things that their solution actually does is it actually improves rankings inside of the with Google search. So it's a way to raise the organization's rankings inside search, and that wasn't intuitive. And so one of the things you want to do when you talk to the customer is, hey, this improves the likelihood that people will find you via Google search. Now, of course, AI is changing all that, and maybe search isn't as important as it once was, but it's still somewhat important. And in the same way, I'm thinking, there are there are little tips and tricks that I would want to make sure that you knew as you're crafting this message. Those things find their way into the final product.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm fishing for, that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
I mean, I think so. It would be a lot of partnership, right? It wouldn't just be give the marketing person some collateral and have them go away and do something and hope that they get it right. I think it would
Right,
be a lot of partnership. I think it would be knowing like being really clear on your story, right? And what you want to tell
right.
in that story, and making sure that that is part of the conversation that the marketing person is developing for sure.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
have to be clear. You have to know what you want them to convey in order to help them figure out how to convey it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things you wanna do too is you wanna be very selective about the things that the messages you wanna get across. Because
Absolutely.
if it's 10 or 12 messages, they're gonna get lost or buried or discarded. But if it's, "Hey, these are the 3 things, that company ABC really benefits from, and here's why, and here's the impact that it has," and that sort of thing. And so so that when you go and present your holistic approach to the to the health plan, the health system, or whoever your customer is, those things are likely to find their way in. I guess that's what I'm guessing,
No,
right?
that's really important. That's a great point. Like the marketing part. So the person that is working with the marketing person has to be super clear too on what those 3 things are, right? Like you said, it
Yeah,
can't be 12, it can't be 100.
yeah,
What are these 3 things for this specific thing that we want you to make sure that you get across?
yeah,
Because I have seen like they hand them everything in the kitchen sink and expect them to come up with something that's going to be compelling.
And so, Liz, from this perspective, right? Piggybacking off of Brendan, if I'm a health tech vendor and I have a product and I'm selling to a health system, and Liz, I brought you on, to help me out, the vendor. How do I go about researching my customer, which is the health system I'm selling to? Right, that ideal customer profile, because I want to make sure that my messaging speaks to, them, and at the same time explaining the value of my solution. How do I go about that research so I can get my messaging right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's you have to kind of go out and look for it, right? And you have to also, I would say, look at all the competitor, like the system's biggest competitors, and kind of see where each of them falls within, whatever market it is that you're trying to focus on. But if it's possible for you to have any way to talk to anybody from that organization beforehand, just to kind of start building up some actual proof points that you can hear directly from them. I think getting a conversation would also be a good way to hear right from the horse's mouth, like what some of their challenges are, what some of the things that they're looking for are. Other than that, it's going to be a lot of hands-on. Hopefully you have a good research team.
So yeah, Brendan, you can chime in on this, right? Because I'm so from that perspective, I'm a startup, right? You coach a lot of startups
Yeah.
and I want to sell to this health system and I'm trying to figure out, how to speak to them in my marketing message. Based off what Liz says, do they normally just market first and kind of do this research thing? Let's say, do some social marketing, or is part of the strategy to actually get in, like Liz says, and talk to somebody, understand the challenges, and then go back and say, oh, okay, guys, this is how we need to shape our marketing message. I guess, which usually comes first from your perspective?
Are you asking me or are you asking Liz?
You.
I, wa- I
Or
wonder.
is it a combination of both?
I wonder how much planning they do beforehand. I sometimes
Yeah.
wonder. They're
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
much of this is thought out beforehand, or if it's shoot from the hip. I don't.
The better question is, do you usually see these startups doing any social marketing before they talk to you, or do you usually see them doing it afterwards?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're in most cases. It depends on when I get them. If I get them when they're just starting out,
Mhm.
then they've probably not done much marketing, and hopefully they've probably not done much marketing. What I would want them to do at that point is have a lot of individual discovery calls. A ton of discovery calls with potential prospects. And learn so your messaging is more coherent before you go out and start talking about what you are, because then you've got to, if you do some sort of pivot or your language isn't right, then you've got to re-educate someone, and that's even harder. I mean, it's impossible with me. I mean, I can't learn anything new at this point. But what you do is in that case, they've not got any message. If they're further along and they're a developed company, then they've got their own messaging and it's actually going on. And then I may come in at that point to work with them around, fine tuning it or leveraging the best parts of it. And that's what I tend to want to do.
Okay, got it, got
I
it.
have another thing. I wonder how often this happens. So like I wonder if I'm calling on a health system or health plan or something, and I discover Liz is involved working with them, I would go back and look and see what other work Liz has done with other health systems and health plans, and like how it compares. Because if I'm working with her, right, I'd be curious to know and see how things work to give me some idea as to like what to expect for the final product, right? And I wonder if there are ways to, and I'm thinking about how to ingratiate myself with Liz at this point, right? So I'm thinking, hey Liz, I'm talking to this health system. You should, and maybe we should get you to talk to them too. I should make an introduction where you could do something similar. And then Liz thinks this guy's, looking out for us. We better look out for him. Is that a little too on the nose?
No, I think that's it. That's what it is, right? We partner as
Yeah.
much as we can, and we collaborate as much as we can, and
Yeah.
we, learn what people are doing for other organizations, and we see if it fits with what we want to do, and then we, see how we can work together.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest number one mistake people make when telling their stories?
That they're not clear on it. Really, I know I keep saying that, but that there's no clarity. I feel like you can go into a C-suite and you can individually, and you can ask 6 or 7 people, what the story is for the organization, what the mission is, what the most important thing is, and every single one will have a different answer. So it's getting that alignment on like, who are we? What do we want to show ourselves as out in the marketplace? And then how do we start talking about that in a way that we understand it, our teams understand it, and the marketplace understands it?
And are there like any important pillars that are necessities in that story? To give you an example, right? So essentially, my company sells cybersecurity services. So one of our biggest pillars, if you will, is trust and transparency. So keeping that in the messaging, no matter what your story is I'm not a marketer, but I'm assuming from what I've seen, it works pretty well. That's one of the pillars you want to keep in. Is there any pillars like that within from the health system perspective that you?
Oh, wait, can I jump on this for a second and put Liz on the spot?
Sure.
So Larry's stuff is integrally important to a health system, a health plan, right? They need this sort of stuff, but it is how do I put it, Larry? It's an unfortunate thing you have to spend so much money on this stuff, right? Because It's not that sexy. Sorry, Larry, but it's really not that. But it's important, right? It's really important. It's like the builder that sells concrete, right? Nobody cares about concrete, but you got to have it, right? That's what Larry does. So, Liz, how would you make what Larry does like sexy and compelling? How would you package that up?
Yeah, I mean, well, you have to show people, excuse me, you have to show people or prospects, clients, what the problem that you're solving for them is, and what they're really like, what the transformation is going to be with using you, Larry. So you can show them how their lives are going to really suck if they don't engage with you, and how their organizations are really going to fall apart if they don't engage with you. Then you're going to show them the transformation that you can bring to them, and then kind of tie that all up as to, this is why you need us, so this doesn't happen to you, and you don't want to wait another year until XYZ cyber attack happens before you engage with me. Let's get you sorted. I'm just making this up. Let's get you sorted out now, so you're ready for when the world starts to end.
I'm making it up too as I go.
It's definitely you're leveraging the fear and loss, right? It's fear and loss as opposed to.
So I don't want to be like, hey, we're going to scare the crap out of everybody, but like show them the urgency. Like there is a risk, right?
It's totally.
There's a risk to not being cyber smart these days. So show them what that risk is.
And I don't want to keep it on my self so long, but really quick. Other than the things I try to do is what I found out through discovery, like you guys mentioned, is majority of the time my customers at the point that they are at in business, they're overwhelmed and they just don't have the time. So essentially, I hone in on that, right?
Yeah.
They're growing health tech companies. They're moving fast. They're selling, right? They're getting these security questionnaires coming in. They're no longer small enough to handle all of this. So they bring me in. So essentially selling, being an extension of the team, because I really don't like the whole fear thing. To be quite honest, because I don't like it. I know it's necessary. I kind of play on that stream, but not a lot. Essentially, really the pain point that other pain point, that they hear, they can emotionally connect to a lot.
Yeah, and they can flex with you as part of their team, as part of their extended team. And they, having a vendor that they trust, and then building up that trust so they know they can hand this off to you. That's an important part of your messaging.
Yeah.
For sure.
And by the way, I'm sorry, go ahead, Liz.
Sorry, no, just one more thing, but like also the message of like, you can't afford to not spend time on this. So whether it's my time that you pay me for or your time, either way, it's got to get dealt with.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Larry, that is, we've talked about this before, but that is a universal obstacle in when selling to health systems, health plans, and that's in that they don't have the time. They oftentimes are just overwhelmed with other things. They got so many things going on. So it's another thing. So anytime you can really take that burden off them almost entirely, or you can explain to them, hey, I'm doing this, and I need you to do this, these 2 or 3 things. And they know what they are, and they know how they're not a surprise and that sort of thing. And they're manageable. If you can do that, I think, and that's universally true. It's not just true with in the concrete business and the cybersecurity business, which are, integrally important, but,
You can make it sexy, Larry. I mean, like I went to so I used to work for a large organization that had a cyber insurance business. So I was the marketer for that. And I remember thinking too, like, oh, this is boring as shit, right? But I went to a conference that I was kind of dragged to. I was thinking this is not going to be an enjoyable few days, but they had hackers at the conference, and they were like showing people how you were going to get hacked, what was going to happen on the dark web. I mean, they pulled up the dark web and were showing it. That was cool. So that really got me.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Thanks, guys. I got a lot of. I gotta replay this video, man. And so Brendan, I mean, I know we're running out of time. Probably have about 5 more minutes left or something.
Sure.
But as far as your work with sales and working with marketing, what does that look like? Are there any challenges? I know you talked a lot about partnering and how to make sure that the messaging is right, et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything specific from you?
One of the questions I was going to ask Liz is because I end up getting involved with early stage companies in a lot of cases, or they're just really kind of getting some level of traction. And I find myself, I'm often asked to write copy. and
Really?
I'm I can write. I do okay.
Yeah.
And I do pretty well. In fact, I've had some successes lately. So, around with cold email and copy and these sorts of things. And typically what I do is I just take more words out. but I but like what sorts of things from a copy standpoint, from a engagement standpoint with prospects, Liz, like what's working these days? Like what are the channels and what are the like how do you craft a message these days?
Yeah, I think for the overall crafting the message, authenticity is probably the most important thing these days. People don't want to read what everyone else is saying, the same thing on a different channel from some different company, right? They want to, again, to come back to, they want to know who this brand is. So many people right now in this climate and everything are really focused on like, what companies am I doing business with? Do they align with my sensibilities and my views and all of that. They want to get a feel for who the company is. So I think being authentic in whatever you're writing is the most important thing today. And then I think it's doing the research, finding out where your prospects live, right? To figure out which channels that you need to be on and just really understanding where that audience lives so you can be in the right place.
That makes sense. Yeah.
How much does AI, I can't think of the word, I don't want to say drown the message, but, make it less authentic? Do you recommend people use AI when crafting that message or not? Or because of course, there's a lot of talk about that.
Oh,
I
God.
can definitely tell if a message is from AI.
I mean, there's a lot of ways you can use AI, right? Just, plugging a prompt in there to write me a post about X is kind of the lazy way to do it. But there are ways that you can use it that can help you write faster. So, I think there's ways that you can so for example, if you write a longer form post, a blog post or something, you write that, you get the message right, you write it in the authentic voice, and then pop it into ChatGPT and say, give me some versions of this for Instagram, whatever channel, right? And then I think there's still a level of you have to see what it outputs and then put your own spin on it, right? Because typically they'll take it and do it, or it will take it and make it sound AI-ish. So, but I think there's a way for you to use it that will help you kind of get a little bit more speed, right?
Right.
Especially if you're not a writer and you're trying to do a lot of writing, getting the one longer piece right, and then you can use it to help you kind of chop that up into different pieces.
Two observations I have on that. One is I've noticed that I think Claude is better at writing than
I've heard that, yeah.
ChatGPT.
You think
Number
so?
one, it really seems to be better, both the kind of content and the formatting and so forth. It seems better. I still do exactly what Liz does, which is write my thing and then drop it in and then ask for suggestions. That would be the one thing. The other thing is, man, I tell you, it cranks out some serious amount of content in no time. I only mention that, like,
Yeah.
so what that means is, uh, there's just going to be we're going to be buried in content in the future. Absolutely, you want to talk a tsunami? If a tsunami had a baby with a typhoon, it's the kind of that's kind of content we're going to have. And so I think that really makes it really, really important that you come up with stuff that's really unique and clever in a way that AI can't do it. And it probably ought to be short because there's just so much out there.
I mean, it depends, right? I don't like to across the board say long form content is dead. I certainly don't feel that way. And as a novelist, I definitely hope that's not true. But I think length doesn't necessarily matter. You have to be mindful of what platform you're on, but the message and the way it's written and the perspective is really what matters and what's going to catch the attention. If people are interested in what you have to say and they resonate with it, they'll read it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I default towards attention spans are,
But that's
in
right.
I'm with you, Brendan. I'm with both of you, but Brendan, I'm with you 100%. When I read a message, I mean, I'm primarily on LinkedIn all of 24/7, pretty much. But if I click more, and it's like these paragraphs. By the way, don't use paragraphs.
No,
Paragraphs are dead.
points are way better. I agree with that.
Right? But yeah, when I see paragraphs on paragraphs, I just scroll by. I'm like, it's way too much to consume. To your point, Brendan, right? My
Yeah,
attention span, there's so much content that it needs to be authentic, concise, and to the point. But
yeah.
to your point, Liz, if you've built up an audience that really resonates with you, they'll read it no matter how long it is. But to get to that point, usually you probably have to start off, I feel like, short and concise. to really start building that out.
Yeah.
You know?
And useful. And I think in like,
Thank you.
5 to 10 years, people will just have that Neuralink plug and they'll plug in and they'll just get the stuff dumped into their head.
Get
And
the
so, I think that's what's going to happen.
Working
I
with
still,
HealthTech
by the way, I still call the New York Times a newspaper, right? So I'm a little old school on this stuff. I don't know what, like it's a paper, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think we're up on time. We want to be respectful for, the audience. Great conversation. Really started. Sometimes they just start taking off towards the end where I feel like I can keep going for like, more and more time. But a lot of useful information here. And Liz, really appreciate you for joining and, sharing.
Liz, where do we find you? Where do we find you?
Yeah.
How do people reach out and get you?
Yeah, I'm at, you can find me at my website, musecommunicationsgroup.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
There you go. Very good.
Great.
Thank you so much for
Sounds
having
good.
me.
Yeah. And you can
Absolutely.
find mine picture in the post office on the wall.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means, but it sounds funny.
Do they say on the wall?
You don't know what that is?
So, no, what is
Oh,
it?
that's the most wanted. Don't you know the most wanted? Like
In the
they're on the
post office?
yeah, they're typically on
Yeah.
the wall of the post
He's
office. Yeah.
dating himself, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Really quick. I'll be really quick, but I try to stay out. I hate I hate the post office. It comes in second place to the DMV. I like never go there. Every time I go there, they can treat you. They feel like they can treat you any way they want to.
Really?
I try to.
Yeah.
I think the post office is one of the genius systems in the United States. It gets demonized, and I don't know what a stamp is now. 50 cents, 55 cents. I don't even know. Someone will tell us. But I mean, for 50 or some cents, you can drop an envelope into a box, and it can arrive 3 or 4 days later in Alaska or San Diego. It's a miracle. It's a freaking miracle.
You know
I'm
what's
serious.
even? Let me tell you about this other thing, man. It's called email.
Email. That's even better. That's like somebody asked me not too long ago if I could drop off a check, and I was like, "What? I haven't had a check."
If you send someone a thank you letter, a physical thank you letter, that is
That's
unique. That's unique, right?
it.
It could be 2 or 3 sentences, right? But it's way different than a thank you email,
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
which
Yeah.
is better than a thank you text.
But yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Really thoughtful. Yeah, I agree on that one. That
But-
should be part of everybody's go-to-market strategy. Once you sign, that new health system, send them something.
yeah,
Brendan, you're in charge of that campaign.
that's what that's my I'm bringing physical mail back. That's what I'm going to do. That's my goal. Justin Timberlake is bringing sex back. I'm bringing physical mail back. It's gonna become hot. It's gonna become retro. Like I don't know, 80s music.
80s music never went away. What are you talking about?
It's true. All right, we're good. You're a good sport.
Liz, everybody, thank you for joining.
Thank you.